So whether or not cities bounce back from the pandemic will be determined by the choices they make to reimagine their downtown hubs. As already discussed in the morning sessions, COVID-19's impact on downtowns and central business districts is particularly pronounced. Their futures are hinging on smart decisions, access to funding, and open-mindedness to different models of planning and operations. I think it takes a big reset, and from my Winnipeg-centric position, this includes also the macro scale of reversing our growth pattern, so building in and in between, repositioning the business core with a new location value, reallocating space from cars to people, reevaluating the challenge of vacancies into an opportunity that comes with lower rents, rethinking development types, so going small instead of, and thinking good compact looks different from towers, re-examining regulations that allow for innovative grassroots planning, and reconsidering stakeholders to include all citizens for more equitable, sustainable, diverse, and healthier outcomes. Number one, starting from the macro scale, Winnipeg is one of the least dense cities in the world. And so for us to have the long-term resources to address issues with downtown, we should also consider the bigger picture. Over the next 25 years, Winnipeg's population is projected to grow about 200,000 people. This means that 80,000 new homes will be needed by 2040. These are most numbers, of course, in cities like Toronto, but for us, this is great news. However, how and where do we choose to build will have a fundamental impact on our collective business plan and on any resources that can be made available to restart and revision our downtown core. Keep in mind that over 70% of Winnipeg's municipal budget consists of services directly related to distance, so meters of pipe, length of road, etc. The Halifax Regional Municipality recently calculated that annual services of a suburban household cost over $2,000 more to taxpayers than an urban household. So if we applied the same math to Winnipeg, and if we directed all of our new growth expected over the next 25 years into our mature city, we would save about $4 billion in just municipal service costs. So that is where the dough is going to come from to reinvest into our core. Instead, of course, we continue to sprawl out. 19 new precincts were approved on the outskirts of Winnipeg in recent years, mostly due to a strong suburban lobby. So talk about a city-scale suicide. All while our infrastructure deficits are projected to be nearly $7 billion over the next 10 years. And at our density and lack thereof, we certainly would have plenty of space to direct all of our new future growth within the mature area of the city. So we have to reverse this growth pattern so that we can stop spending all of our tax revenue on road repair and invest it into services, innovation, and our people everywhere in that existing city. Number two, we have to reposition our central business district. Our core lacks the 24/7 downtown residential density present in comparable cities elsewhere. And because most North American downtowns are heavily weighted towards core commercial uses with their huge transient weekday population swings, COVID-19's impact to downtowns, the central business districts is and has been pretty harsh. In comparison, my original hometown, Helsinki, Finland, or where I was born, has approximately the same population as Winnipeg, but its physical footprint is half the size of Winnipeg, and its downtown is 5-6 times denser than Winnipeg's. Post-pandemic, we have the opportunity to reposition and diversify our downtown. Global survey suggests that while a majority of employees want to return to the office, they only would like to do so part-time, with 1 and 2 days working from home being ideal. Commercial vacancies are likely to increase, and there may well be a market to convert office buildings into residential space and other mixed uses. Not without its challenges, of course, as an architect, I know. I would suggest, though, that 3 to 5 years down the road, at least, people will again want to access the amenities that cities afford. People's innate desire to socialize, enjoy culture, and share experiences will eventually drive renewed growth. New kinds of assembly venues and entertainment options emerge. So another possible scenario is that as fewer workers travel daily, downtowns will become more appealing, hospitality-oriented, high-amenity destinations that are more about the 24/7 cycle and less about the 9 to 5. Public outdoor space, use of parks and green spaces is flourishing, promoting health and wellness. Canadians are seeking activities that abide to social distancing guidelines, and parks and greenways are welcoming more guests. Summer and winter point of sales data shows that big jumps in purchases of bikes, skis, kayaks, and other outdoor accessories. Residential and pedestrian-oriented uses with more green space, therefore, can be infused into the CBDs. We need to reimagine and plan for a more diverse mixed-use downtown with more weight on the outdoor environment. Number 3, reallocate space. Currently, a staggering 40% of land in downtown Winnipeg is allocated to surface parking. And while the pandemic is certainly squashing public transit, it's also hopefully reducing the need for this massive space for cars in our downtown area. And that's a huge opportunity for us and elsewhere. On that front, walkable cities have a higher GDP than those that are not by about 38%. And walkability is what makes more cities more competitive. When Melbourne recently redesigned its center for pedestrians through converting its back lanes into people space places, it was recognized as the Economist's world's most livable city in 5 years in a row. And yet, retailers tend to overestimate the importance of car for customer travel and underestimate the importance of other modes. Over the summer, many cities shut down vehicle access on streets to give more outdoor space to restaurants, and some experts are urging cities to make these changes permanent. At minimum, we need to increase flexible space in downtowns, parking stalls that become eateries, multimodal corridors, active transportation, sidewalks that can contract and expand to meet demand. Number 4, reevaluate the opportunity. Empty spaces at lower rents will allow entrepreneurs to try things in novel combinations. Lower rents can also attract local startups, mom and pops, not-for-profit, small businesses, innovative food and beverage, community partnerships, maker spaces, and local manufacturing. Post-pandemic, there will be heightened focus on value of human experience in the future work, and small grain, hyper-local, mixed-use, diverse environments will attract new users. This will require fundamental rethink of the ground floor to allow for more public accessibility with integrated public and private indoor-outdoor transitions, as well as flexibility for pop-ups and other organic activity. There's also going to be a lot more pressure to provide public Wi-Fi for work and play and for equality. Investing in tech is in its many forms: autonomous vehicles, new energy sources, new construction methods, and new construction materials, machine learning, etc., will be important to increase safety, lower costs, and our environmental impact. But because our universal desire to be where other people are, even as cities become more virtual, the good news is that downtowns will continue to play an important role in our society. Number 5, rethink development type. Did you know that in the 1950s, the average North American occupied about 290 square feet of floor area per person? But just in 2007 already, that number was 900 square feet per person, accounting for an increase of about 300%. Furthermore, Winnipeg household size decreased by full person from about 3.5 people to 2.5 people per household. And yet the size of our houses keeps increasing. So while the pessimistic view would suggest that the post-pandemic world, in the post-pandemic world, people will want bigger and bigger houses further and further apart from one another, another piece of data keeps me optimistic, and that is that according to the 2016 census, one-person households became the most common type of household in Canada for the first time, accounting for 28% of all of the households. So that would suggest that building 1- or 2-person families will represent the biggest market opportunity in the future. And that will hopefully mean that locally responsive developments like the Railside plan will flourish. This plan is currently under works at the Forks, downtown Winnipeg, and will provide 1,200 residential units in 11 acres on existing transit routes, coupled with new and existing amenities. It's replacing a previous vision for the site that consisted of 5 towers, and at the new plan breaks down the same density into 30 smaller 4- to 6-story mixed-use buildings with services and amenities on the ground floor. It's highly tailored local response from scale to timeline to capacity of local developers. So it's critical to remember that building compact in the core does not necessarily mean, at least in our context, where land values are cheap, that we should or we need to always aim for towers. Density comes in many forms. Happy cities and neighborhoods include ground-oriented, human-scale multifamily housing and shared outdoor space between buildings, safe places for kids to play together and seniors and families to hang out. Number 6, re-examining the regulations and getting away from single-use zoning will allow for diversity, mix of uses, housing types, etc., at many different levels, from city to neighborhood to building, and it's essential for creating more resilient cities and downtowns. As landlords adapt large commercial floor plates to accommodate different scales and uses, post-pandemic office buildings will likely feature a mix of functions as well. A similar dynamic is played out at the city block and business to district scales, further breaking down traditional typologies and zoning. Tactical urbanism will be the new mode of operation. Small changes to regulations is often all it takes to salvage a bad situation. Cities have demonstrated that they can go with a light touch instead of making permanent change and be effective. Simple initiatives as such as open streets here in Winnipeg and elsewhere were a huge success this summer. To reshape the CBD, a change of mindset is pretty critical to create a zoning and development regulations that help struggling retail and restaurant entrepreneurs and promote walkability, resiliency through adaptive reuse and inclusivity. Initiatives like free street parking on weekdays in the downtown core here, or expanded outdoor eating areas, streeteries, are great examples of cities successfully addressing immediate needs by getting creative, and that can work moving forward too. And many times, positive and innovative grassroots initiatives merely requires that regulators sort of get out of the way, if you will. Organic guerrilla campaigns like Walk Winnipeg, inspired by Walk Raleigh, can help reimagine and reboot a more inclusive and equitable core. And finally, number 7, reconsidering who the stakeholders of the new downtown really are is probably the most important piece of the reset button. Urban resilience is the capacity for all people, communities, institutions, businesses, and systems within the community to survive, adapt, and thrive. So re-examining and rewriting regulatory and fiscal policies should certainly go towards increasing affordability and equity. The 2006 census revealed that almost 25% of Canadian households and 18% of the population may have affordability issues. So addressing this not only means that considering housing a basic human right, but also investing in social programs and tackling mental health issues through adequate support networks. For context, only about 5% of Canada's total population lives in social housing, while by contrast, 32% of Sweden's and 34% of Netherlands' populations is supported through social housing. Of course, this is larger than just the downtown issue, but should be tackled to include the other 99% of the population in the future planning of our cities. On that note, also when creating new plans and developing engagement processes, we need to recognize diversity, identify any potential barriers to design, and design the process to minimize barriers where possible. Inclusiveness means overcoming barriers to engagement. Equal representation ensures fair and balanced process. In conclusion, cities have been around for thousands of years and serve as a crossroads where people get together to exchange ideas and goods. And as long as the location value is there, downtowns will bounce back. This will take a mindset of courage and optimism. And in Winnipeg, let's stop the suicide mission. While we think big, we must also prioritize smaller, less ambitious ideas that have incremental but meaningful impact. The post-pandemic downtown is flexible, organic, nimble, diverse, small grain, local, bottom-up, and inclusive, and therefore a more resilient to future disruptions. Thank you.